Diamond Bradley, much like numerous others, adored social media during her teenage years, yet the issue lies in the fact that it's impossible to discern whether the individual on the opposite end of the screen is a friend, or if beneath a charming facade lurks an actual monster. Diamond Marsh Bradley entered the world on March 21, 2001, in Clarksville, Tennessee. She was the younger sibling to Daquan, who was 3 years older than her. At a certain juncture, their parents, Doris and Philip, opted for separation, prompting Doris to seek a more tranquil and secure environment for her children, away from the urban chaos. She moved Daquan and Diamond to a small town named Spring Valley in Illinois, where they had relatives, allowing the children to be raised alongside their cousins. Spring Valley is a quaint town situated along the Illinois River, with its population in 2002 barely reaching 5,000 inhabitants, and it has seen little growth since. The town lacked large malls or towering buildings. Instead, its residents built a closely knit community reliant on mutual support. Doris secured a position as a cook in a nursing home, where she dedicated over 15 years of service, ensuring her children had their needs met. As they matured, and Doris couldn't always be present, Daquan stepped into the role of guardian, mentor, and elder brother for Diamond, forging a deep bond that eventually evolved into a strong friendship. Diamond also spent considerable time with her cousin Giovanna, their resemblance so striking that many mistook them for twins. Later, Doris welcomed 2 more children into the family, a girl named Malia and a boy named Quentin. Despite Spring Valley's ideal setting for raising a family, its major drawback was the lack of activities for teenagers. Diamond was a quintessential girl who cherished singing, dancing, engaging in play with her siblings, and staging photo shoots. Additionally, she devoted numerous hours online as social media and smartphones gained widespread acceptance among the youth. Gradually, she took to actively seeking out internet users for communication, companionship, and amusement. By 2014, at around 13 years of age, she began to actively post, sharing a wide array of content on her page. Diamond disclosed everything from details about her personal relationships and invitations to socialize, to her affection for her family and adulations for her mother, whom she deemed the best in the world. At times, she would seek guidance or simply share her musings. Throughout her adolescence, Diamond navigated the emotional shifts typical of the journey from childhood to adulthood. There were moments when Diamond felt an overwhelming sense of distrust or a compelling need to confide in someone. Although Doris and other family members engaged with her posts, Diamond often yearned for the attention of fellow social media users. With limited activities in Spring Valley, her interest in boys began to blossom, and social media served as a sort of digital journal for her. She frequently updated her thoughts, posting multiple times daily. Through her posts, one could easily follow the evolving life and thoughts of the teenager during this time. She cherished and esteemed her family, yet at times felt profound ennui, seeking someone from the online community for a conversation. She candidly confessed her lack of friendships. She yearned for affection, craved attention, and shared her deepest feelings with anyone who would read her posts. Indeed, social media represented merely a fraction of a person's actual life. However, it offered a glimpse into the concerns and thoughts that preoccupied the young woman. At that period, Diamond was a high school student, and she had recently started dating Nicholas Nelson. They formed an adorable pair, spending ample time together and appearing genuinely smitten. The young woman was not fond of school. In the autumn of 2017, she aimed to complete her graduation through a special program by passing exams. She possessed a deep sense of empathy and aspired to a career in nursing. Though many viewed Diamond as youthful, her ambitions were significant. On January 23, 2018, the Bradley household buzzed with friends and family as they gathered to celebrate Doris's birthday. The night was brimming with affection and happiness, highlighted by a festive cake, tunes, and the sheer pleasure of being among dear ones. Unbeknownst to Doris, in less than a day, her life was poised to shatter. That night, the partygoers started leaving at 10 p.m., leading the celebrant to inform her daughter of her bedtime plans. Diamond bid her mother a good night and proceeded to take a shower. Typically, Doris would rise just before 7 a.m., prepare the morning meal, and see the younger kids off to school. She expected her oldest daughter to be awake by this time, yet she was conspicuously absent. The bedroom upstairs was vacant as well. At first, Doris was not alarmed, understanding her daughter's penchant for morning coffee runs to the nearby gas station. However, as time passed without Diamond's return, her worry intensified. Diamond lacked personal transportation, and the weather outside was a mix of wet snow and wind, hardly conducive for a stroll. When Doris attempted to reach her daughter by phone, it went directly to voicemail, an unusual occurrence. By 8:30 a.m., Dequan, who had been living apart due to his hectic schedule, came over as they had planned to rendezvous. The absence of Diamond's responses to her family's persistent texts and calls was alarming, especially since she was known to avoid causing them undue stress. Their concern deepened over the hours, and despite reaching out to all her acquaintances, no one had any information. Dequan drove through the town in search of Diamond, but their small community offered few hiding spots. Doris was overwhelmed by a spectrum of feelings, from dread to fury, fearing the worst had befallen her daughter. Never had Diamond stayed away this long without any word. The distress became unbearable for Doris, who, after depleting every option, reported her daughter as missing to the police at 6 p.m. The law enforcement team prioritized gathering details about Diamond's mobile usage and reached out to her cellular provider to pinpoint the phone's last known location via cell tower signals. A swift response revealed the device's final activity at 7:18 a.m., located 5 miles northwest of a tower in Tonopah, Illinois. This information, however, only offered a broad search area without precise coordinates, leaving her whereabouts ambiguous. Following this, the phone either depleted its battery or was deliberately shut off, as there was no subsequent activity or social media engagement from Diamond. Her mother clung to the hope that Diamond's cousin Giovanna, with whom Diamond had spent the previous evening communicating, might hold vital information. Diamond often confided her innermost thoughts and plans in Giovanna, but hadn't specified her intentions for the next morning. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Giovanna chose to reveal a critical secret to Doris. Diamond possessed a second phone, unknown to her family, for internet access via Wi-Fi, discovered by Daquan in a dresser drawer, password protected and without a cellular plan. This revelation took Doris by surprise, unaware of her daughter's secret phone. Recognizing the urgency, she immediately brought the device to the police, hoping it might yield clues to her daughter's disappearance. Investigators deduced that the hidden phone was used for activities that wouldn't have received Doris's approval. Once they bypassed the lock screen, they encountered additional security measures. Each app required its own password. Despite this, notifications visible on the lock screen indicated several individuals inviting Diamond to meet. The investigation revealed that the 16-year-old had been using the device to interact on dating platforms, a revelation that shocked Doris but was not unknown to Giovanna. Diamond had taken precautions, advising her cousin to alert her at the first sign of danger, knowing the risks involved with her secret engagements. Doris had always been stringent about dating, especially aware of her daughter's inclination towards older individuals and the dangers of online interactions. She emphasized caution and the importance of skepticism when dealing with strangers, aware of her daughter's tendency to misrepresent her age. Despite warnings from her mother and Daquan about the perils of rushing into adulthood, Diamond crafted an online persona that suggested she was older. As the search for Diamond continued, law enforcement expanded their efforts beyond the digital realm. They canvassed the Bradleys' neighborhood, speaking with locals, checking nearby businesses, and gathering surveillance footage in hopes of uncovering any leads. At Diamond's regular coffee stop, only one low-resolution camera provided any footage, capturing a nondescript dark vehicle and its adult male driver. With scant evidence to go on, authorities concentrated on this individual, meticulously analyzing the video in search of any detail that might lead to Diamond's whereabouts. The girl's brother set out to nearby towns to put up flyers with a photo and description of his sister. For some reason, he was convinced that she had been abducted and taken out of town. Daquan knew that time was running out and they needed to hurry. He blamed himself for oversleeping that morning and not coming home earlier, as he could have prevented Diamond's disappearance. On January 25th, Doris and Jasmine, another of Diamond's cousins, went to the police to provide important information about Diamond. It turned out that the missing girl wasn't just getting acquainted with boys. Unfortunately, she had gotten involved in something even more dangerous. Jasmine explained that on dating sites, Diamond noticed pop-up advertisements offering meetings with men on a commercial basis. It was a kind of business, and the high school student was very intrigued. She wanted to understand how it worked and learned that some men paid women to meet with them. No one knew how curious Diamond was or how long this had been going on, but obviously, the girl had placed advertisements of herself on adult websites, which was one of the reasons why there were so many notifications on her lock screen. Almost all of these messages were from unfamiliar men who had either responded to the advertisement or her profile on dating sites. Doris felt like a bad mother. She couldn't even imagine in her worst nightmares that her underage daughter would decide to earn money this way. But Daquan saw things differently. His mother always knew how to balance strictness with giving her children some freedom. Diamond likely didn't grasp the gravity of engaging in such transactions. She might have assumed she'd be compensated for merely spending time on dates, particularly with older men who she thought would be more financially generous. At heart, she was exploring life with the naivety of youth, unaware of the dangers lurking on those platforms, unseen threats posed by individuals seeking to exploit the most vulnerable. The allure of easy money for social outings was a dangerous curiosity. Law enforcement was aware that many youths in Spring Valley found themselves ensnared in monotony, with their primary pastime being the digital world, a realm their guardians scarcely understood. This disconnect left many parents oblivious to the digital hazards their children navigated daily. In response to the escalating concern, the local police sought the FBI's assistance for advanced resources to access and analyze data from Diamond's primary phone, aiming to reconstruct her movements on the day she vanished. This collaboration bore fruit, as they managed to chart the route taken by Diamond, suggesting she was in a vehicle, given the rapid pace of movement detected. An extensive review of surveillance footage from the area identified 13 vehicles, yet the poor quality of the images thwarted efforts to discern license plate numbers. An inventive approach saw the deployment of a patrol car equipped with a dash cam at a strategic intersection, which, after 2 days, helped filter out vehicles frequently traversing the locale, isolating a red pickup and a black Jeep that ceased to appear thereafter. Without immediate evidence to prioritize these vehicles, the police opted to methodically narrow their focus, beginning with these two. Further surveillance linked the black Jeep to another location along Diamond's last known trajectory, sharpening the investigation's focus on this particular vehicle. Simultaneously, detectives delved into Diamond's digital interactions, scrutinizing communications on her dating applications and social media platforms. A pivotal discovery was the last message Diamond sent on the morning of her disappearance, directed to a 26-year-old known as Gerald, or Jay, among his circle. In the course of the investigation, the individual in question, Jay, acknowledged a romantic connection with Diamond, but clarified that he had ceased contact upon learning her true age. On the morning of January 24th, at 6 a.m., Diamond had invited him to meet at an IHOP restaurant. Almost immediately, she retracted the invitation, apologizing and claiming the message was intended for someone else. Jay responded with a benign, smiley face. At 6:40 a.m., a distressing message from Diamond arrived, stating, "I'm dying." Upon discovering that Jay was the last known contact of her 16-year-old daughter, Doris was overcome with rage and despair, confronting him with accusations of harming her child. In her grief, she was prepared to cast blame on any potential suspect. Jay, however, provided a solid alibi, claiming he was home all night engaged in video games, corroborated by a female companion's presence. Initially reluctant under pressure, Jay revealed that this companion was none other than Giovanna, Diamond's cousin, adding a layer of complexity and confusion to the investigation without advancing the search for Diamond. Redirecting their attention back to the black Jeep, investigators uncovered additional surveillance footage capturing the vehicle en route to Putnam County, whereafter Diamond's phone signal vanished, either powered off or battery depleted. This vehicle became a focal point of the investigation, believed to be crucial in uncovering Diamond's fate. Tragically, the urgency of the situation escalated when, on January 27th, 3 days following the report of Diamond's disappearance, the sheriff's office in Putnam County received a significant call before noon, suggesting a grim turn in the ongoing search for the missing girl. A pedestrian strolling down the pebble path in Granville Township spotted the corpse of a young woman in the ditch beside the road. Upon the arrival of the head of Putnam County at the location, it was clear to him that this incident was no mishap. The young woman's life had been deliberately ended by another. The wounds were distributed across her body, on her back, stomach, legs, arms, and hands. She was a young African-American female. The police chief recalled that a young girl fitting her description had been reported missing in Spring Valley, prompting him to make an immediate call there. The area was rural, blanketed in snow at this season, flanked by cornfields on either side of the path. The closest dwelling was a good few miles from the spot. Diamond Bradley's remains were partly submerged in water due to a brook that flowed through the ditch. The defensive injuries made it clear that the girl had resisted fiercely to the very end. In the wake of the grim discovery of Diamond Bradley, the lead detective made the somber journey to the Bradley family home, tasked with the unbearable duty of conveying the tragic news. The moment police appeared at their doorstep around 7 p.m., Doris felt an ominous stir in her heart, a premonition of sorrow. Her breakdown, even before the news was verbalized, spoke volumes of a mother's intuition. The return of Dequan to a home engulfed in grief brought him face to face with a reality far removed from his hopeful assumption of Diamond's return. The crushing weight of the truth, that his sister was found deceased, overwhelmed him to the point of fainting, a testament to the bond and the burden of unfulfilled promises he bore. As the news permeated the small community, every inhabitant was profoundly disturbed. The thought of allowing their children to roam the streets filled them with dread. What if the creature was hiding close by, searching for its next prey? The investigation team intensely scrutinized the black Jeep seen in the security video. To refine their search, the police consulted an automotive shop that specializes in such models. A technician meticulously reviewed the video and confidently pinpointed it as a certain model year of a Jeep Wrangler. Armed with this detail, the officers fed it into their databases, pulling up all the addresses and names of individuals in the vicinity who owned Jeep vehicles fitting that specific profile. After checking with numerous owners of similar Jeeps, the officers reached a home located roughly a few kilometers north of where Diamond's remains were discovered. A lady opened the door, stating that the black Jeep's owner had relocated to a different municipality named Standard, though she lacked any forwarding address. Standard, being merely 2 miles distant and home to about 200 people, made the task of locating the individual seem less daunting. Cruising through the county, the police spotted a black Jeep Wrangler in the driveway of a residence. The car belonged to 26-year-old Richard Henderson, who on January 24th had indeed ventured into Spring Valley, stopping at a gas station opposite the Bradley residence. He was the individual seen in the gas station's surveillance video. Inside the station, he awaited a call from a friend, but departed without the call coming through. The detectives meticulously scrutinized Henderson's behavior, the pauses in his narrative, and his facial cues. Noticing his momentary falter, they queried the name of his friend. He disclosed Diamond, admitting ignorance of her surname. It then became an exercise in investigative prowess. The seasoned detectives adeptly navigated the conversation, coaxing a confession from Richard. He confessed to meeting Diamond that day. Their initial plans aborted. Henderson claimed to have left Diamond at a mobile home community, a location contrary to the direction of Diamond's phone's trajectory. This discrepancy led to suspicions of either phone theft or deceit. Seizing the opportunity to elicit a full admission, the investigators suggested a patrol car ride retracing the path taken by Henderson and Diamond that day. They embarked from the gas station, proceeded past the traffic junction captured on video, over a bridge, and into the pastoral expanses of Pantom County. The journey halted where Diamond's phone signal vanished. The only remnants of the young girl were plush toys and synthetic blossoms at her memorial beside the creek bed, transforming the scene entirely. Diamond's memory was eternally preserved by her loved ones, the vibrant flowers contrasting starkly with the surrounding snowy white terrain. These items, much like Diamond herself, were out of place. The minor, delicate girl was abandoned in that ravine, her vitality ebbing away. Upon the detective questioning Richard about his recognition of the site, he lost his composure, tears streaming down his face. The detective, seizing the emotional moment, urged him to disclose the events. Henderson, overwhelmed, averted his gaze from the memorial, sobbing. His account was succinct. Their visit to the secluded area was for an intimate encounter. Afterwards, when Henderson asked her to leave the car, she refused, brandishing a knife instead. A struggle ensued, with Richard claiming self-defense. He asserted that in an attempt to deflect her knife-wielding hand, the blade accidentally penetrated her abdomen. Despite this, Diamond allegedly remained aggressive. Richard admitted to disarming and striking her possibly twice in purported self-defense before leaving her in the ditch. Nonetheless, the autopsy contradicted his narrative, revealing over 20 stab wounds on Diamond, some even on her back. Standing at nearly 6 feet tall and double Diamond's weight, who was just shy of 5 feet, Henderson's explanation was implausible. He was fully grown, confronting a child. By the time they commenced their search, Diamond had already passed away. At the service, more than 200 individuals gathered, encompassing family, friends, peers, and educators from Spring Valley High School. Opting for cremation, Doris wished for Diamond to remain perpetually close to her. The notion of leaving her daughter in a graveyard was unbearable for her. Thus, she carried Diamond's urn everywhere, including to the courtroom during Henderson's sentencing. Richard negotiated a plea, admitting his guilt to circumvent a life sentence, ultimately receiving a 53-year term without the chance for parole. Doris confessed to harboring thoughts of ending her own life due to the profound absence of her daughter. However, the consideration of her surviving children held her back from such a finality. This is the end of the story. Like the video and leave your thoughts in the comments. This was Jeremy. See you soon.